Well, hello everyone. I'm Parul Goyal, and I'm going to talk to you about my journey of building an enterprise product from scratch. But before I get to my journey, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about my career journey and how did I get on this train to build this enterprise product. So I started my career 15 years ago as an engineer. And it became pretty clear to me that this is not my calling. This is not what I want to do. My manager at the time suggested that, oh, why don't you try product management? You have great communication skills, you get technology, you can think through things end to end. You should consider becoming a product manager. At the time, though, I was just starting my career and I really wanted to go broad before I pick an industry and go deep. So instead, I joined consulting. I joined Capgemini as a consultant, and then I spent several years in consulting. And consulting did give me what I was looking for. My clients were from retail, from tech, from healthcare, biotech. It gave me an exposure to a number of domains. But really, the main thing I got out of consulting, the main thing I enjoyed about consulting was that it made me scrappy. Because when you are a consultant and you are on an engagement, you're on a client side, the expectation is that you will deliver value from day one. Right? So you might be coming up to speed on a particular technology or domain, but you still have to position yourself as somebody who knows what they're talking about. Right? So how to deliver value from day one, how to deliver your product on time, on budget, in spite of all of the challenges that might come our way. So those were kind of the things, challenges I dealt with in consulting, and I learned a lot from it. I really enjoyed the process. But after several years in consulting, I had had enough of travel because I was following the Monday to Thursday travel schedule. So finally, I said, okay, you know what? I am ready for an industry job. And that's when my first manager's advice came back to me. I said, okay, you know what? I am going to try pursuing a career as a product manager. So then I joined PayPal as a product manager, and I was the product manager for PayPal's disputes and chargeback product. I did this for about 3.5 years. It was a largely ignored experience when I had joined, and I led this initiative where we completely rewrote the product, the process, and policy. It's a very satisfying experience. And I thought that I was doing really well, right? I felt like I was the star performer on the team. And one day, my manager approached me and he was like, oh, there is this other team that's been formed at PayPal. They're building something interesting. They're looking for an experts in disputes. And would you be interested? And I wasn't. I was like, I'm really happy here. And I was a little bit upset that my manager is coming to me asking me if I wanted to move to a different team. So I didn't know how to not take it personally. But I was not enthusiastic about this opportunity, but my manager was. So he kept telling me, oh, you should go. This is really great for you. You will learn a lot. You should go. And finally, I gave in. I was like, fine, you want me gone? I'll go. So very begrudgingly, very unhappily, I joined this team, which was then called PayPal for Marketplaces. Right. And so it's been 4 years. I have actually been part of that team for 4 years. We have built and taken a product to market. We have scaled it. And it really has been a 4-year long exciting journey. So today, this product is called PayPal Commerce Platform for platforms and marketplaces. Um, so in the last 4 years, we have gone through a lot. We have done the pilot, we have scaled it, we have some impressive customers like Instagram and Facebook to show for the work we have done. But what I want to focus on is the early days of this journey, right? When we were just building this product. And so I had joined this team back in 2016. And some of you might remember this, that for many years, PayPal was part of eBay, right? We were a single company. Now, 2015 is when that changed, right? 2015 is when PayPal and eBay split. So in around that time, the thinking was, okay, now that we are divorced from eBay, maybe we can start dating other marketplaces. So what can we do internally? Can we build an end-to-end payment solution which is targeted towards the segment, marketplaces? Right? So that's how the journey started. That's how we said, okay, this is a good opportunity. Most of the commerce is moving towards marketplaces. This is an opportunity for us to capitalize. So the first version of the product was called PayPal for Marketplaces. Since then, it has changed a lot. You know, you can see from our documentation, now it is for platforms and marketplaces. It has gone through a rebranding. Our target segment has expanded. We are doing a lot more than payments. Okay, so just a little bit about what our product is, because I'm going to use it as an example for the three challenges that I point out. Right? So then until that point, I had worked mostly on incremental changes to products, or maybe building, a version 2 of a product, which was the case with the chargeback experience. Now, this was the first time I was actually building something from scratch. Let me see if I can move this. There we go. And so what I want to talk about are the three challenges that we faced when building an enterprise product from scratch, the approach we took to solving it, and what I learned from this experience. The first one really was where to start. Right. So one of the things that my manager had pointed out, that why I should be excited about this opportunity, is that it's a great way to give strategic direction to a new product, to really have an impact and influence what we are building, which is true. Right? When you're building something from scratch, you can have a lot more influence. But the problem was for me that it was also very daunting. It was also very scary and confusing. Uh, Imagine writing the first chapter of your epic novel, right? Who are your characters? What era is it set in? What is the genre that you're writing about? So all of the decisions that you make there are going to impact your journey. So as exciting as it was also a little scary, because we knew that these decisions are important. They are going to have a big impact to the direction of our product. So we did have some direction, right? It wasn't a completely blank page we started with. We did know what our business goal was, which was to capture a new segment, marketplaces. We also knew who our target customer was, marketplaces. But even then, in spite of these two big decisions, we still had to make a series of decisions before we could define our MVP, minimum viable product. I'll give you a few examples. Even though we said, okay, our customers are marketplaces, there are different types of marketplaces. There are physical goods, services, gig economy, crowdfunding platforms. And sure, they all share some needs, but they also have special needs based on what they do. The size of the marketplace matters quite a bit when they're doing payments. The bigger marketplaces, they want really control over the experience, right? They want their brand to be front and center. Now, the smaller marketplaces just really want a plug and play model, right? They don't really have the resources to spend on a complex integration. So they had rather get something that they can start using right away. So there were still quite a few decisions that we had to make. Now, in my previous experience, I had the benefit of having data, right? We have, from the existing product, you have data you can use to make decisions. You have customers you can go talk to and figure out what they want. All of these things that were missing because we were building this from scratch. So this is the approach that we took. We decided to narrow down the scope. The other option was really to build a generic product, right, which would address all of these different types of marketplaces, kind of address the needs of large and small, and see where we get traction. We decided to take a slightly different approach. We said, okay, you know what? We have been serving eBay as their payment provider for many years. So we know physical goods marketplaces really well. Right? We know how to serve large marketplaces that are global really well. So that's our area of strength. So we further narrowed down our vertical to say physical goods marketplaces, large global. Like that's who we are building for. And so that gave us enough direction to get started. But then we actually got lucky. A huge marketplace ended up signing as our pilot customer while we were building the. And this pilot customer was AliExpress. Some of you guys might have heard of them. They are part of the Alibaba group in China, and they are Alibaba's international marketplace. So all of the sellers are based in China, but the buyers are global. So they were looking to integrate with PayPal. And at the time, the product that we were building seemed like the best fit for them. So they signed up to be our pilot customer. And just because of us narrowing down our scope, and then further narrowing down our scope because of our pilot partner, it really gave our MVP direction, right? We knew what was important for phase one, right? We whatever was needed for AliExpress is what we were building. Our goal, our MVP was directed at AliExpress going live, right? That was the target. And emotionally, it had a big impact on the team, because now, instead of this amorphous potential customer who would use our product, we had this tangible partner, people we would talk to who would ask us, how is it going? This is what we need. So it really motivated the team now that we had a pilot customer. Also, it gave us a deadline to strive towards, right? Because with AliExpress, we had a contract where we were delivering the product by a certain period. And also, it proved the business value of what we were building, right? It proved the business viability of this new product that we were building, that while we were building it, we were able to sign such a large deal. So really, reducing our scope and signing a pilot customer really helped us make some of these early decisions. Now, there were some side effects of having a pilot partner like AliExpress. They also wanted some build that was custom to them, right? And some of that we did have to do. We did have to do some custom build for AliExpress because they were our pilot customer. Some of it was really custom to them. We knew nobody else would use it. Some of it wasn't really specific to them, but we also knew we would have built it later on if it wasn't for AliExpress. So for example, scale. On Singles Day, Alibaba Group does huge volume in traffic, right? They do a lot of business on Singles Day. And AliExpress gets their share of the action, right? So one of their main requirements was that PayPal should be able to handle that scale. So this was kind of a difficult problem that we had to confront and solve for earlier than we had expected. But the upside was, once we were able to solve for AliExpress's scale, once we were able to solve for their business, then we did know the smaller marketplaces that came after AliExpress would be much easier. We wouldn't have to worry about whether our product would scale or not, right? So in my mind, the benefits of having a pilot customer, it way outweighed the side effects, right? So it helped us think through the solution. It gave us another really good example of a large physical goods global marketplace. It helped us build a scalable product. It also made us very creative because, we at that point, we had been building for maybe 6 to 9 months. But what they were looking for was a lot more than what we had. So we had to look around PayPal, across PayPal, to see what else could we really bundle in our product and serve to them. Right? So it really made us more creative. It forced us to think outside of box, that instead of building, what can we reuse that PayPal already has? So this would be my first recommendation for you, that when you're building something from scratch, whether it's actually B2B or B2C, it's very easy to go into analysis paralysis, right? There are just so many decisions to be made, and they seem like they're very critical, life-changing decisions. So start somewhere, right? Don't try to boil the ocean. Narrow your scope. Decide what problem you want to solve for. Who do you want to solve for? Hopefully, pick something that aligns with your strength and start there. Right? So make some of these, as hard as it is, make some of these key decisions early on, and then it will make the rest of your journey a lot smoother. So that was, this was end of 2016. We went live, we piloted with AliExpress in October of 2016. Right? And it was a really successful pilot. We continued doing some work with them. Now, our next goal was, in 2017, our goal was, okay, so we got AliExpress, but have we really built a generic product? Does it work for other marketplaces out there? So then our goal was to get tens of integrations just to validate what we have built. Now, the next problem we ran into was really validating our roadmap before these integrations happened. So I'll tell you what really the challenge was. Uh, so when I worked on the B2C product in my previous role at PayPal, the chargeback product, I rolled out a new experience, right? And our pilot group was about 10,000 customers, right? Which is really a drop in the bucket. But for our B2B product, we were like, all right, let's open the floodgates. And there were no floods. They were more like a trickle, because the B2B, in general, the customer set tends to be much smaller. Like there aren't millions of marketplaces out there, right? There are much fewer businesses than individual users. Sales cycle takes a while for B2B products, right? Integration itself takes a while. And this was especially true of us in the beginning because we hadn't really spent a lot of time optimizing the integration process. So what that meant was, if I delivered a product in January, right, let's say my product was ready for integration in January, right, it would take sales team about 3 months to find a customer for it, assuming there was a demand. And then it might take somebody another 3 months to integrate with it, right? So something that was built in January wouldn't be used until June. We wouldn't even find out whether it's sellable until March, and it wouldn't be used until June, right? And if in June, by the time issues come up, issues were discovered in production, the team probably had moved into something else, right? And they had to change context, remember what they had built, and then go back and address it. So this was a big problem for us, right? That before we have put in the investment, before we have actually built the features and capabilities of our product, how do we make sure that there is a demand for it, right? Number two, how do we, instead of our product waiting on the shelf for a few months, how do we make sure that somebody is integrating with it and we get feedback right away? So our approach was really to validate our roadmap through our pipeline. What we had to get comfortable with was selling ahead of the curve, which basically meant our sales team would be selling our product, including the features and capabilities we hadn't built yet. So for example, let's say I'm delivering something in January, right? The goal was that we already have a few customers whom we have sold this feature to in June or September of last year. So by the time the product is ready, so is the partner. They are ready to integrate with us. They know exactly what they are getting. Right? And this was kind of a nerve-wracking idea for us, right? Where we kind of have customers waiting, and then we deliver, and we have already made promises that we had to deliver to them. The second thing that it forced us to do was to optimize our integration, right? Now, if your integration takes 3 months, that's another 3 months you have to wait before you get feedback on your features and capabilities. So we made a lot of investment at this time to really shorten our integration timeline, right? So what worked was we were able to validate our roadmap before we built the capabilities, right? In general, partners were happier because our integration process was easier, it was less complex, it was shorter, right? So they were happy about that. And also we were able to reduce the noise on our platform. And I wanted to give you a specific example. In payments, your conversion rate and your SLA is super critical, right? Imagine if you have a marketplace and 100 buyers try to make a payment, and let's say only 7 successful, right? That's a huge red flag for the marketplace because they're losing business. So another thing we figured out right away was if any of these foundational expectations that our customers have from us, if they were not being met, then we are not going to get any quality feedback from our partners, right? So we had to make sure that our conversion rate was top notch, our SLA was what it was expected to be, our availability was what it was expected to be, right? So we got our foundation really right. And then we were able to talk to our customers about the features we had developed and what worked for them, what didn't work for them. Now, the side effect of this approach was because we were selling ahead of the curve, right? Because we were selling before we had actually built the feature, we were making commitments to our customers. So if we said something would come in January, it had to be delivered in January, right? There was a very little wiggle room for us to move the timeline, right? And that did put a lot of pressure on the team. But again, the upside was it made us more creative, right? If there were challenges, we again tried to find more creative ways to solve it rather than take the longer route. So that would be my second recommendation to you guys, that if you are building, especially an enterprise product from scratch, something you have to get comfortable with right away is being able to sell ahead of the curve, right? Have your sales team sell your roadmap. It will help you validate your roadmap and make sure you're making investments in the right place. So, but this, being able to sell ahead of the roadmap meant that we had to be joined at hip with our sales team. Okay, which brings me to my third challenge, which is adoption by the sales team, right? And these were some of the challenges that we came across, right? Our sales team was new to this product because this product itself was new. And by that time, the sales team had figured out other ways they could together and sell to marketplaces. They kind of knew, okay, it wasn't perfect, but it worked. So they were used to selling something, and now they had to go out and sell this new product that they didn't really know. They didn't really have any reason to have confidence in it. In fact, what we were telling them was not to even sell the product, but sell the roadmap with the confidence that, oh, yeah, we will deliver it. By the time you have a partner, we would have built it. Right? And it took some time for us to bring our sales team on board. And this was among my few roles that I had as a B2B, as an enterprise product manager. And I realized that I could build the best product out there. But if my sales team isn't bought in, if they don't believe in the product, if they don't believe in the team, they're not going to sell it. Right? So as a PM, my job was to bring sales team along. It was my job to make sure they know the product, they have confidence in the team, right? And this was honestly a lesson, to be honest, I learned a little bit late. So this was our approach. Once we realized that, oh wait, it's not just building the product is not enough. We also have to have these internal stakeholders like sales buy into it. Our approach was really educating. We spent a lot of time educating the sales team so that they would see that our product actually worked. Now, this meant telling them what works as well as telling them what does not work. Else we learned was, if we don't give the sales team this information, are you guys still able to hear me? If we don't give them this information, they're going to fill the gaps themselves, right? And then they're going to go out and sell something that you did not have in mind. So if anything, in the beginning, we learned to over communicate with the sales team, right? We had these detailed documentation about our product that they could consume to learn about the product, right? And the more informed they got, the more confident they got about our product. So we had these detailed documentation that the sales team could consume, but then we also gave them some collateral that they could use directly with the customers, right? But because again, for the products that they were already selling, it was more or less a frictionless process. They already had collateral, right? So, and even for selling our product, we wanted to make the process as frictionless for them as possible. So we put in the work to develop some of the early collateral when our product was going live. And for pilots in the early days, and even now, whenever we have a new capability that's going live, right, a big capability that's going live, the product and engineering teams are very involved in the early pilots. And when we started doing this, the sales team they kind of knew we wouldn't leave them hanging, right? If the product doesn't work, they wouldn't be spending their time trying to find a point of contact. We would be there with them in the room trying to resolve the issue. So some of these things that we did really went a long way in just winning the confidence of our sales team and building relationship. And as a product manager, to be honest, especially being involved in these early deals, helped me develop empathy with the customer and with the sales team. Because, if there's somebody from the sales team reaches out to me saying, oh, customer X really needs it, it's easy for me on the email to say, well, no, it's not our roadmap. We're not going to get to it until the end of the year. But if I'm in the room with the salesperson, right, and it's very clear to me why the customer needs it, then I do have more empathy for them, right? Then I am motivated to try harder to solve that customer's problem. So even as a product manager, I thought being involved in the early deals really helped me understand where our customers were coming from, what was important to them. It helped us create alignment. It helped us really develop a relationship with our sales team. And so they felt more confident going out and selling our product. Now, one of the side effects of this approach was my team was spending a lot more time with the sales team that we had allocated for, right? Because honestly, we planned on building products. Now we were building products and supporting the sales team. And at some point, we realized that but maybe for some pilots, we can afford to spend as much time as we did with the sales team, but that can't be our main model, right? We have to find ways to create experts within the sales team, right? So that they become the go-to person for sales team rather than product. So in the beginning, our strategy was to spend more time with salespeople, but over time we have been looking at more sustainable ways to get this relationship going, right? Which is some of the pilots we are very involved, and we find people within the sales team whom we can spend time with one-on-one, help them develop documentation, and train them to be experts for our product. So that is, so really my recommendation here would be that if you are in the enterprise space, right, if you are launching a new product, know upfront that you will have to work with your sales team. The sooner you start building those relationships, the sooner you start building your bringing your sales team and educating them about your product, the easier it would be for you to take it to market. So start building those relationships, start making that investment upfront. Also, when you do the capacity planning for your product team, allocate capacity for working with the sales team, right? This is not something that we usually think about, but in an enterprise space, it is super important. You do need product and sales to collaborate together and go out to the customers together and present your product, right? So that's my third recommendation to you. Enterprise space, make sure you have a strong relationship with your sales team. So then I just wanted to summarize the three challenges and the recommendations that I talked about. Number one is narrow your scope, right? Make some critical decisions, as difficult as they are, early on, and it will make the rest of your ride much smoother. Number two is really get comfortable selling ahead of when your product is ready, right? This will make sure that you make investments in the right area. And as soon as your feature and capability is ready, you're getting quality feedback from your customers. And the third one is work closely with the sales team to sell your product. As a PM, it is your role. It's not just building product, it's also making sure it's successful in the market. And your sales team is your key stakeholder there. So get to know them, spend a lot of time with them. So one last piece of advice before we go to Q&A. If you get this opportunity to build a product from scratch, right, take it. You shouldn't have your manager pushing you, just take it yourself, because of course you will get to launch a new product, a brand new product, but really it will skyrocket your learning. Right? There is so much I have learned from this process. I have gotten better at working with abstract. I have gotten better at making decisions with limited amount of information. I have gotten better at thinking outside of the box, right? Instead of building, where can we find solutions that we can package and and position and sell to our customers. I have gotten better at marketing, right? It really is when you build something from scratch, you really have to think like a general manager, right? Which is a different muscle that as product managers don't always use. If you get this opportunity to build something from scratch, yes, it's stressful, yes, it's risky, but take it. It's definitely worth the ride. Neha, we can do questions now.
Okay, awesome. That was great. So the first question comes from Ralph did they consider the hero marketplace as an extreme user in your initial days to get a new customer on board?
Did they consider, sorry, when?
The hero marketplace?
I don't know what that is. Can I go to the
Sure, yeah.
chat and
Yeah,
see?
it's in the Q&A section. Or another way to rephrase that question would be, how did you get to AliExpress? Did you consider a set of customers and selected one of them, or was it more that they came to you and you decided this is a good early pilot customer to work with?
So it was the latter. So we honestly, there was a little bit of luck involved in how we landed AliExpress because they had approached PayPal for an integration. And, based on their needs, it was decided that what we were building was going to be a good fit for them. And given that we were also focusing on the needs of a large physical goods global marketplace, there were synergies there. And so that's how it came together. But in the beginning, it wasn't really that we were pursuing them. It just, in some ways, it just landed in our lap.
Got it. Okay. The next question is from Kyle. For custom builds for AliExpress, how did you approach prioritizing the custom builds for them versus the enterprise features that would fit the needs of other marketplaces? So the trade-off between custom for one client versus the generic enterprise features for several.
Yeah. So from the very beginning, even before we had gotten to building our product, we had agreed upon some core principles. And one of the core principles was that we will not do any custom build. But to be honest, with AliExpress, and since then some of the larger integrations that we have had, we have realized that given these are strategic partners, given the nature of their business, we have to be open to some custom build, right? But if we were to build it in such a way that it's reusable by other customers, then it saves us at least some effort, time and money in future. It was a difficult decision. For a lot of the custom build requests that came to us, we did a lot of due diligence to see whether we could avoid it, whether we could find some more generic solutions. Some of them we understood where they were coming from, so we agreed to do the custom build. For the others, there were things we said no to because they did not align with PayPal's principles, right? So we have a general philosophy of what a buyer's rights are and what a seller's rights are, right? And if the asks did not align with our philosophy, then those were the things that were a hard no. But our preference was always generic build. But of course, to win business, we did make compromise there.
Got it. Okay. Our next question is from Shubham. Can you please explain validating roadmap again? Is it validating features and finding solutions ahead, or is it something else?
Yeah, so I will give you a specific example, and maybe that would help. One of the things that we were considering building was paying merchants in their PayPal account. Let's take it as an example. Right, that's a capability that doesn't exist right now in a marketplace context. That was something that we wanted to build. Now, based on the research we had done, to us, it seemed like, oh, this is something that would sell. This is something our partners would be interested in. What I meant by validating the roadmap is validating this hypothesis before we started building it or before we went down too deep into this path. So what we would do is we would put it on our roadmap to say, oh, this capability is coming, will be delivered at the end of Q3. right? And earlier in the year, our sales team would take that roadmap, show it, and show it to our potential pipeline and say, these are the capabilities that are coming. This is what exists. Would you be interested in an integration, right? Depending on how many partners who actually signed with PayPal chose to use that capability or feature, we would then you take that input and decide whether we wanted to build it or not, right? If it seemed like we could attach a revenue figure to it, we would build it. If people didn't really buy it, if nobody seemed interested, they were like, yeah, if it's there, I'll use it, but it's not a deal breaker. Especially in the early days, we pushed it out and said, okay, this is not the right time to build it. It's nice to have. So that's what I had meant.
Got it. Okay, very helpful. Our next question is from Holly. What was the role of marketing in this process? What are your advices in working with the marketing team during this process?
So for marketing team, my advice would be very similar to what I had for the sales team. Well, to an extent, is education and engagement that also helped us, get collaboration from the marketing team. Now, at the level of education is going to be slightly different. For sales team, our goal was that if a customer asks a question about our product, the salesperson should be able to answer it, right? Now with marketing team, that's not the goal, right? That's just an information overload for them. So with the marketing team, what we spent a lot of time on was just talking about the customer pain point and the value proposition of our product, right? So that was something they heavily depended on us for. Right? Not just what the capability was, but what was the problem statement and how did it solve it, right? So again, anyway, in marketing, that is what their main focus area was. If we were able to clearly articulate this to them, then they were able to take it, package it a lot better than we had, and help us take our product to market. So that would be my advice for the marketing team. Again, education and engagement, but focus on making their job easier, which would be give them the bytes or give them the bits that would help and position your product.
Got it. Okay. AG asks, how did you incentivize the sales team to sell roadmap over, besides the existing portfolio? So products that they were already supposed to sell versus here's a new product that's coming, start selling the roadmap as well. What was the incentive for the sales team?
Some of it was just from a business perspective, we did get a sales team that was aligned to our product, right? So it wasn't that I had to go out and incentivize. There was a sales team assigned to us to say, okay, these are the people who will go out. And especially this was from the channel marketplaces sales team who were then supporting our product. So I didn't really have to go out and incentivize sales team to sell our product. That was really part of their role. They were asked to do it. However, we also realized that's not enough, right? Just because they are supposed to do it doesn't mean they can do it until we were to arm them with the information that they needed. So it really, I didn't have to incentivize them, just had to give them the information and tools that they needed to go out and sell it.
Got it. How did you differentiate your product from the product you already had integrated with eBay's marketplace? And this question comes from Danielle. And how did you make sure that this new product would be stronger than what you already had in existence with eBay's partnership?
So is the question then, how did we differentiate the product we had with eBay and the new product?
Yes.
So that was never really a goal for us. We obviously took the learnings we had from supporting eBay in terms of, what are some of the marketplace's needs? What are some of the challenges they face, right? And we tried to solve these requirements and these challenges in the new product, but the goal never really was to make it better than what we had for eBay. Right? So our focus was really, it should, instead of we took our learnings from eBay and we kind of externalized the product we had for it, for eBay in many ways. So really there was never a direct comparison between what we had for eBay and then what we rolled out later. I don't know if that answers the question, if that was the spirit of it.
Yeah, so Danielle, if that doesn't answer the question, can I please encourage you to type in a follow-up if needed? But I think it does. So the intent wasn't,
Yeah.
intentional association, but the intent was that we externalize. We've done this for eBay. Let's take what we've learned and expand it to
Yeah.
other marketplaces. Got it. Okay. The next question is from Akin. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. Were there any product trade-offs that you had to make in order to launch on time for the early customers that were promised features from your roadmap? And if so, what were some of the trade-offs and what type of frameworks did you use to determine which trade-offs were worth it?
So let me think about it. In the early days, were there times when we had to uh, make, I'm pretty sure, as a feeling, I know we made a lot of trade-offs. There were times when, we said something would, oh, so I can give you a recent example where we had a customer commitment where we were going to deliver 3 products in the middle of April, right? And then the 2 of them were ready. The third one was going to take a longer time, right? And we discovered this probably sometime in March. And at that point, we did include our account management team to say, you know what, these 2 things are going to be ready, right? They can start integrating with what we have. Can they wait a little bit longer for the third one, right? Another month for the third one. And we were lucky that the answer was yes, right? So then that kind of helped us to say, okay, you know what, let's just focus on these 2 for now. We know this third one is not going to work. We have bought some more time to deliver it. There have also been times when the answer has been no, right? And then we have to kind of go back and say, okay, can we reduce scope somewhere else to make this fit? Can we find more people? Can we deprioritize other projects or our engineering team's roadmap to find capacity and accelerate it? And sometimes, to be honest, when we fail to do all of those things, we just have to tell the customer that, I know we said May, but we are not going to be able to do May. So that has also happened.
Yeah, thank you. The next set of questions are from Rita. She asks, did the product meet its first quarter and year 1 revenue goals? And I think that the preface to that is, was revenue a part of the goal for year 1 of the product? And she also asked, what frameworks were used for the development? Was it agile or another method? Was it chosen based on status quo, or did you do something different with the project because it was an enterprise project?
We did not have a revenue goal for the first year.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal really was integration with AliExpress and then ramping with a certain number of merchants on AliExpress platform. For our year 2, we had a revenue goal and a number of integrations goal. And yes, we ended up meeting both of them. One of the reasons we met the goal was because we learned to sell ahead of the curve, right? So instead of waiting for the features to be ready and then start selling, like we realized early on, oh wait, that's not going to work. So the reason we were able to meet our both integration and revenue goals was because we had learned and implemented that model. We did use Agile for this, and I think we honestly chose it because that's the default at PayPal. In the hindsight, it did work well for us because there was just so much uncertainty. Our roadmap was very fluid. And actually, it continues to be very fluid because, as we learn more about our pipeline, as we learn more about our customer requirements, we are open to change. So we used and continue to use Agile, and honestly, it works for us.
Okay, it's very helpful. Monica asks, did you only work with one pilot customer in the MVP phase? To manage the uncertainty, did you limit the number of customer sales you should close when you were building the product?
Honestly, we did not have that problem. I don't think we had to make that decision. I think in the beginning, once AliExpress was sold, I think at that point we did not really actively look for new pilots. Next year, and then again at that year, our goal was to just go live AliExpress. Honestly, our plates were full. Next year, we did make a conscious decision that instead of another large partner, we want to focus on the number of integrations. Right? That was a conscious decision because we wanted to make sure that our product is usable beyond one or two big strategic partners, that it was a strategic or it was a generic product that customers could just do the plug and play model with. So the next year, again, we said that, okay, we work with tens of pilots. In the initial years, I don't think there was a phase where we said, no, please don't sell anymore. I don't think we ever got to that.
Okay. And last question so far we have from Kyle. He asked, did you have features that weren't bought by customers via the roadmap, but the team felt was necessary for the vision? If so, were they successful in the adoption?
We had some, so we have had examples where we have built something because there was a lot of conviction around it and it has worked. And so I'll give you an example, something that I work on now is monetization, which is how do we help our partners make money, right? So this was something that really, there wasn't a whole lot of ask for it. There was just an idea. There was just internally within the team, it felt like, oh, this is something we should focus on. So we built this one capability and it really took off, right? Now we can't really build fast enough to keep up with the pipeline. In the early stages, there was this other capability that we had built, right? It was very expensive and we felt like it would be important for us to scale, and it honestly never really took off. In fact, at some point, it became more of an impediment. So we had to go out of our way to develop the other model that actually our customers wanted. So yeah, so sometimes when we have followed our intuition, we have been right. Sometimes we have been wrong. But we also realize that's the only way we will be able to have moonshots is to kind of, take a different path, try something unique, try something new. And that's just cost of trying.
Got it. Okay. Shweta asks, did the model you represented today apply to B2C products as well? For example, how do we get pipeline validation when we don't have pilot customers? And do you have any experience that you think you can share from what we discussed today on the B2C space?
So especially in my experience, validating the roadmap is much easier in a B2C space, right? Because there are all of these things like I think it's called the fake door testing, right? Where you just have the mock-up and you go live with that. And if somebody, you just kind of you gauge interest to see how many people would even click on the button, right? And if you get enough interest, then you go ahead and build it. So, or you kind of do a much smaller pilot, right? For a customer B2C product and see where it goes. So in my experience, validating the roadmap is much simpler in a B2C space. In B2B, especially in payments, the problem was kind of a half-baked payments product doesn't really sell, right? Because it is kind of the lifeline of a business. If you can't rely on your payments partner, then you are not going to do very well. And obviously PayPal is not going to do very well. Right. So at least in B2C, I think kind of going out with a half-baked product just to gauge interest doesn't really fly. But I think in B2C, there is more room for it. There is more tolerance for it. Plus, you have a much, much larger customer base to reach out to than you do in B2B. But I feel like a lot of the advice would still apply. I think the actual execution of it would be different. Like maybe the sales team wouldn't play such a huge role in it. I think there is a lot more scope to do A/B testing. There is a lot more scope to do user research in the lab. So I think those are some of the things I have used in the past.
Got it. Okay. 2 more questions. From Ambika, she asks, how did you define success for your launch? And did the definition of success alter during the developmental phase?
Um, so we always had um, org level KPIs or OKRs defined for us that we were striving for, right? So, and tell me, let me know if you had something else in mind, right? For example, I mentioned that for our first year, making sure that we had a successful integration with AliExpress before Singles Day, right? That we had ramped X number of merchants on AliExpress. That was our success criteria, right? And then we were able to meet it. Now in the year after, our goal was X number of integrations and revenue, right? And as it turned out, we were able to do the number of integrations much earlier in the year, right? So and then actually we had room to actually say, okay, to change the criteria to say, actually, we said X, but we were able to do X plus 5. So in general, we had clearly defined OKRs, and those were our guiding lights. That those were really, that's what we strive for as our success criteria. I don't know if you had something else in mind when you asked this question.
Okay. I think that answers it, but Amrika, feel free to chat if you want more clarification. I think we have room for just one more question. It's coming from Shweta. Is it true even for hardware related products where there's more capital required? And I think this is in context with the earlier discussion, or does it translate to B2C? Can you take some of these best practices that you just shared today into hardware related products where initial investment is significant?
So I have not built a hardware product. So I mean, I can take a guess and say that yes, um, even if you are building a hardware product, you will have to make some of these decisions early on about who your target customers are, and you might have done a lot of research, but even then, you will never really be able to make these decisions with 100% confidence. You will never really have a guaranteed plan for a success, right? So even in a hardware use case, I think my first recommendation, which is make some of these decisions, even though you might not know everything you need to, I think that still would be the case. Now, you might want to do a lot more research because, as you pointed out, the investment in a hardware product is much higher, right? The second one, which is selling ahead of the roadmap, I do believe the common practice is to have some prototypes ready. And you go to your potential customers and you sell based on those hardware, based on the prototypes before you build the actual product. And again, that's like I have a very superficial understanding of how the hardware space works, but at least just by intuition, common sense, to me, it seems like that would also work. And yes, I think you will still have to work with the sales team. If you have a sales team involved in selling your product, I think education and engagement with sales team is something you can't get away from. You would have to do it.
All right, that was awesome and right on time. It's 8:02, so thank you folks for staying a little bit longer. Thank you so much, Parul, for your time today. I found it extremely valuable. I'm sure that my fellow attendees also found it helpful. For the attendees who are still on, we will be sending an NPS survey. Please do share feedback with us about this session. And Parul, what is the best way to connect with Parul, with you? Is it
LinkedIn. I think
LinkedIn?
LinkedIn would be the best way.
Okay, yes, and yes, thank you everyone for attending. Stay safe, stay at home as much as you can, and let's continue to, come out stronger out of this. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much, Paro.
Thank you, guys. It was really fun.